everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. We do a lot of talks and things like that, but it's always nice to be amongst entrepreneurs and speaking to an audience who's our peers. To give you a little bit of context on what we'll be covering today, as first-time founders, it's kind of a rule that we try not to give advice too early on in our journey, but we just wanted to share what we've experienced so far, what we've learned, and hopefully that will be relevant to people and interesting as well. Cool. So that's Yeshoda. I'm Reha, and this is our story of Hoovu and how we're trying to disrupt $1 billion puja industry.
Hi, everyone. So I am Yeshoda Karuturi. So I'm the CEO of Hoovu Fresh. Before we started the company, I did my master's in accounting and bachelor's in business administration from Washington University. And after that, I actually worked in our family business for some time, Karuturi Global, which was at one point the world's largest rose producer.
I'm Reha Karuturi, so I'm the CTO. I handle the tech and the marketing side of things. I graduated in 2019 with a degree from Stanford University. I did science, technology, and society. Before that, I worked at multiple publications and also at our family business. But our story of Hoovu actually goes way back before that. This is us about 20 years ago on our parents' farm. So in 1994, the year that Yeshoda was born, our father started out a small rose farm in Dodbalapur in Bangalore. Our parents together started this farm and then grew it to Ethiopia and to Kenya. And at one point, they were actually the world's largest cut rose producers in the world as well. So for us, floriculture was, in our blood in a sense, right? Like we grew up hearing about auction prices and stem lengths and harvest cycles. So when we were thinking about what we wanted to do, flowers was kind of the obvious answer.
So we always knew we wanted to do something in flowers, right? And one day I was at home just researching retail and flowers, and I happened to see my mom doing her daily puja. And it was supposed to be a beautiful and meditative experience, but it ended up being also very frantic for her. She wasn't happy with the flowers that she had. She was yelling at the watchman, the driver, and just the entire process seemed so different from how puja is supposed to be. And that's when we realized, right, that this is how India interacts with flowers. Puja is the most common and daily use case that we engage with flowers. And what was so surprising is that this industry is over 4 times the size of cut flowers, which is the daily bouquets and gifting options that we look at. But there was really no innovation or brand that was present in this space.
What shocked us about this industry when we started doing our research is that unlike the cut flower industry, it's extremely fragmented, unorganized, and it sees upwards of 40% of wastage. This number of 40% wastage, it didn't allow us to sleep for weeks on end, especially because we come from an agri background, right? Just imagine 192,000 acres of land not only being underutilized, but essentially being utilized to grow flowers that are just going to end up in your dustbin. Like, we just couldn't imagine it. The main problem when we looked into it boils down to freshness. The cut flower industry, where our parents kind of came from, have a shelf life of about 20 to 30 days. But these traditional flowers, which we use in India, have a shelf life of 2 to 3 days. And that was the crux of the issue.
So this is where our solution comes in. So how does it work? We partner with local farmers to get flowers as soon as they're harvested. We then use our in-house technology to package these flowers and extend their shelf life to 15 days. And then we dispatch these orders through different distribution channels, online and offline grocery platforms like Zepto, Big Basket, etc. So what makes this work? I'm going to start off with supply chain, which is the most integral part of how we got started. So when it comes to the traditional supply chain, right, we've all seen the mandis around us. So this is just a bit of a background on how those mandis work. The local farmer will take his produce to the local mandi in his village. There, the auctioneer there will buy it. Then he'll then sell it to other middlemen that will then take it to city markets. From there, other people will then buy it to take it to your local neighborhood markets like Malleshwaram or Yashwantpur markets. And then your local flower lady will end up buying those flowers and then supplying it to the consumer. This entire process takes 36 to 48 hours sometimes. So when you end up getting the flowers in your home, they end up looking wilted. We focused on reducing the supply chain to one level, farmer to our Hoovu packets, and bringing it down to 12 hours. And technology is something that's really important that allows us to do this. Our back-end technology allows us to really project the different orders that we have, look at different harvest cycles, where different flowers are grown, and optimize on the products that we're buying. This really helps us bring down wastage in an industry where 40% is a common number to less than 5%. And it also helps us understand different trends, right? When it comes to puja, each one of us in this room might be having similar but also different practices in terms of the flowers that we use, the beliefs that we have, and of course it has a lot to do with geographic traditions as well. So looking at the different customs in different areas and also mapping it against the supply chain availability in the different cities allows us to serve our customers in a better way.
Most fresh produce supply chains would have stopped at the farmer to their packet, right? But for us, that shelf life was the biggest limiting factor, and that was something that we really wanted to work on. So we spent a lot of time, and we came up with packaging that extends the shelf life of these flowers from 2 to 3 days to 15 days. This was a huge game changer for us. As soon as we were able to extend the shelf life, we were able to play around with the market in a way that nobody else had before. There have been several festivals where we were the only supplier in the entire city, sometimes in the entire state, who had certain varieties of flowers because everyone else was facing a shortage, but our shelf life elongation allowed us to stock stuff way in advance. It also allows us to have a no returns policy with all of our grocery partners, which is unheard of in the fresh produce section.
Packaging also really opened up distribution for us. We didn't have to monitor our supply chain end to end anymore and start looking at different distribution channels to scale our product. So grocery apps, as I mentioned, like Zepto, Big Basket, Fresh to Home, this is something that immediately clicked for us, and we are present on all the major grocery platforms in the cities that we're available at. The exciting distribution channels that we're looking at this year are local markets, temples, and modern trade. These are some of the platforms that we're present on. And here's a picture of the different grocery store displays that we have. When it comes to local markets, right, we're all used to seeing flowers in the local markets. And whenever we talk about our model, the first thing people ask us is, oh, so are you competing against a local flower lady? The short answer is kind of yes, and the long answer is absolutely not. Because for us, this is a very exciting supply chain that's available to us. The lady is giving you bad flowers because she's getting bad flowers that are going through multiple levels of the supply chain. So if we are able to look at this as a distribution platform and work together with the local markets, we're truly then revolutionizing the puja flower industry. We've developed carts that are very easy to use and also add value to these local flower vendors, and are providing them our own packaged products which they can then sell through all their local flower markets. Temples are also another very exciting distribution channel. We obviously all know that these flowers are used in temples, but what value could we add to the current supply chain that supplies to the temples? Right now we have over 200 temples onboarded, and technology becomes really important again here to be able to service these temples. Of course, temples require a lot of specialization and design, but we've created a workflow through our in-house technology that allows us to modularize this process, which really hasn't been done before.
Finally, process innovation. Once we were able to achieve a certain scale, we realized that not only did we have to create this category, but we really had to create the machines that could service this category as well. Which is why we came up with our own custom machinery, which not just packages these flowers and helps us with standardization and efficiency, but also sanitizes them and further extends their shelf life as well. Currently, we have 6 machines, which are the first of their kind that help us package our flowers, and we're currently working on a garlanding machine, which we hope will revolutionize this industry as well.
So a bit about our traction. Last August, we were doing about 80,000 orders per month. This August, we closed at around 187,000 orders per month. And all the solution aspects that we spoke about so far are really the foundation behind which that allows us to grow this way. We're really grateful to be covered by media because we are essentially a category creator in this space, and it's great to see this story being shared with the media.
In terms of what we've done so far, we currently have operations in 3 cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Mumbai, but we've also serviced orders in multiple other cities like Pune, Mysore, Chennai, Noida, Gurgaon, and other such places. So far, what we've told you has been what our journey has been and something that's already in the public domain, something that we share very often. But what we wanted to do for today's session, especially because we're speaking to other entrepreneurs, is talk about pivotal moments in our journey so far. It's been about 3.5, 4 years that we started, and there's already been so many lessons that have been really instructive to how we look at our future. So we want to walk you through a few of them and what learnings we've had, and hopefully they'll be relevant to you as well.
So the first learning for us was just getting started, right? Day zero was really a large part of cracking this journey. So before we started, of course, as I said, there wasn't any other player that we could really replicate, right? So there was a lot of research, there was a lot of data being collected. And when you're a category creator, it always feels like you can collect more data and be more prepared for that first day. And I remember we were having a conversation with our father, and he was like, how is your idea going? And we're like, it's going, we're coming up with all these different things. And he's like, do you realize Valentine's Day is in 2 weeks? And that's like one of the most important days for flowers, and you're just going to let that go? And that's when we realized we were sitting on this huge opportunity to have a grand launch, and we just kept delaying it because we never felt prepared, right? And the short answer was we were never going to feel prepared because it always felt like we could do more. So that's when we bit the bullet and we decided to launch on Valentine's Day. And back then we did all types of flowers. And that really helped us realize that the first step is really half the journey.
Yeah, when we started, we still had the hunch that puja flowers is what we wanted to do. But we started out with all the flowers. So we did bouquets, decor, events, everything, because we felt like we had to get that information coming. But even then, with puja flowers, everyone was like, why don't you focus on bouquet? I mean, we launched on Valentine's Day, right? So we right away saw those revenues coming in for these other channels, and obviously it was very tempting. But we felt like there was something there for us to crack with puja flowers, and we should stick to it. And I think something that we learned through this, of course, this is still true, right? We've started our journey, but anytime we want to launch in a new city, try a new channel, expand our product portfolio, we come back to this question. How much research should we do? How many reports do we put together? How many people can we talk to and get advice from? But something that really sticks with us, there's a saying, as you start walking, the path becomes clear. And that has really, really been true for us. As we start and we just kind of dip our toe into the water, the kind of learnings you get are so much more practical and tangible than just sitting at your Excel sheet and putting reports together, that this has been, our tendency has always been to do and then to kind of figure out what we can do better.
And continuously iterate as we're doing. So the next key pivotal moment for us was actually being part of the Techstars Accelerator. So Techstars is a pretty popular program, globally recognized, and we were fortunate enough to be part of their second cohort in India. This was really helpful, right? Especially in our first year of operations. Reha and I were so involved in everything, with every delivery, with every customer conversation. And it felt like if we had to be a good leader, to be good founders, we had to be involved all the time in everything that was going on. But what Techstars really helped us with was to allow us to take that step back and recognize that to actually be a good leader, you have to create a good team and create the right processes so you don't have to be involved in everything and you can focus on that bigger picture.
It also taught us really early on in our journey the importance of mentorship. Both of us are first-time founders, and we came fresh out of college and kind of started this company. And to this day, even 4 years in, we're constantly seeking out mentorship because Techstars made us realize how important it is for us to constantly be upskilling ourselves. I think when we first started, we had this fear that the company would outgrow us, that the skill sets that we had wouldn't be enough to take the company forward. And that fear came true almost every month, right? The company was growing so fast. But in a way, that was also a dream come true, because you want your company to constantly be outpacing you, and you want it to push you to grow even faster and upskill yourself so that you can you can be worthy of leading that company that you've built.
And then there were two seismic shifts that we made in our business. The first was to move from focusing on all flowers to just puja flowers. And this was something that was a hunch for us from day one. But as we said, we always focused on that experimentation and data. So it made sense to try out everything and then actually prove to ourselves and everyone around us that puja flowers is what made sense. And we always saw that, right? Scalability wasn't puja flowers for us. The interest for building this business was also puja flowers for both of us. But to actually make that decision of not supplying all these flowers, even though we saw revenue from everything else, was a very integral decision for us to make. Similarly, in the beginning, we only supplied orders through our website. We were completely a D2C channel. And then we decided to pivot into a B2B2C model and look at different distribution channels, which opened up to us once we had our packaging and processing innovation. Both of these were super important because as you start off, right, and the one thing everyone talks about founders is that they have a good eye for opportunities. But to be able to look at all these opportunities that you have and say, I'm going to zero in on this specific opportunity, I'm going to have that razor sharp focus on what I'm building and not get distracted by all these other great opportunities, they're just not opportunities for me, is a huge learning. And I think it's something that takes a lot in terms of a leap of faith as founders to be able to make that decision.
Yeah, I think, Yeshoda comes from an accounting background, finance. I come from a computer science background. So for both of us, data has always been really, really important. So we were constantly collecting data from day one. But I think both of these decisions, focusing just on puja flowers and going to that B2B2C model, it couldn't be done just with data, right? There was data that could point you both ways. I think for both of us, these decisions were really pivotal in understanding how important your gut feel is, right? At the end of the day, you are an individual who's the founder of this individual company, right? The fit between the founder and the company is something that really matters as well. And for us, it was really important to realize what we wanted to build, what our life's work really meant to us, right? And for us, yeah, you could do that in bouquets, yeah, you could do it in decor, you could do it in 100 different things, right? If we're just talking about monetary benefit, both of us could have stayed in America and gotten great jobs. But I think for us, puja flowers was so exciting. We really saw a future where these flowers could be in every grocery store that you went to, and the same way you buy your Lay's chips packet, and I mean, you can pick it up from a kirana shop, your grocery store, food hall, like online, and you don't even think about it. Because it's a Lay's chips packet, you just open it up, you pop it in your mouth, and you know it's going to be safe. We always felt that if we could do that with puja flowers, if we could get it to you in your local mandis, online, on our website, wherever it is, if we could really transform that puja experience for you and have trust as the central tenant behind it, then we would have done our life's work. And that's why we kind of leaned into this, and luckily that's worked out well for us. The next thing that we wanted to touch upon is really the meaning behind our business and why we started it. So the question that we always had to ask ourselves is, what do these flowers mean, right? When someone bows their head in prayer, when someone puts fragrant jasmine in their hair, or just puts 2 stems of sevanti in their auto dashboard, why do they really do it? And obviously, the simple answer, the easy answer is that there's traditions, right? You've been taught to do this, or it's just old habits. But something about that just wasn't satisfactory to us.
What it came down to us was everyday gratitude. Each flower is a reminder to pause, to notice, to care, to spend a moment in the joy of simply just feeling gratitude. When we offer flowers in prayer, to remember our loved ones, to make the world around us just a little more beautiful with that one flower in your hair, we're just saying thank you to those who watch over us for the blessings we've been given and for another day on this beautiful earth. Flowers bloom and they wilt. And every day we say thank you for this blooming and the promise to find beauty again tomorrow. This was something that was super special to us and our consumers.
We are Hoovu. Thank you so much.
Hi, Yeshoda and Reha. A very interesting presentation, and love the flow of entire thing which you have put up there. The question from me is, right now we are selling on all the online platforms and Zeptos of the world. Now that you are planning to get into the offline retail kind of space, you will be interacting with people who are who have worked in this very unorganized industry for a very long time. To convince them will take a whole lot of different strategy and everything. And obviously, since you are packaging it, you're putting up your proprietary technology, the cost will be a bit higher, much higher. So how do you plan to go about that? Like, what is the way forward?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right? You're selling from category managers who are sitting in offices to ladies who've been on that street their entire lives, like longer than we've been alive. So you're definitely right, it's a completely different conversation, but I think the root of it stays the same. When we first approached the category managers of any of these big industries, they were like, yeah, every day we get so many searches for all of these puja flowers, but I don't want to take it. It's such a headache, all of them will die. So they had that trust deficit, right? They didn't believe that these flowers could really last that long. And for us, it was really about saying, why don't you try it? Just keep my flowers on your desk, and oftentimes they would just forget about it there. And then 15 days later, we'd get a call and they were like, oh my God, it actually is still fresh. We definitely didn't believe you. So it's about building trust there, and I think that principle holds even when we go to the markets. From day one, we didn't just have to sell to customers, we also had to sell to our farmers, right? It's always been kind of a marketplace kind of approach in that sense, because if you want to go fast, you can just kind of like go alone, but if you want to go far, you have to go with your partners. So selling to farmers has been something that we've been doing from day one, and so this is a similar conversation that we have to have there as well. And it really boils down to trust, and something that's really important to Yeshoda and myself is that every hand that touches these flowers along the journey before it comes to your God should be benefited in some way, right? So whether that's our farmer, whether that's a lady who's working in our company, or whether it's a retailer or the lady in the end case, I think it becomes easier to build trust when you're genuinely building value for them.
And just to add to that, right, it's definitely going to be challenging in a very different way when we look at offline markets, but that's the fun of entrepreneurship. If it was easy, then there would be a lot of people that are doing it. But I think a large part of that challenge goes back to that data and experimentation. And something that one of our Techstars mentors actually said to us, and it's probably going to stick with us forever, he said, a startup is not a business. A startup is an experiment to build a long-lasting business. So look at it that way. And it's such a simple line, but it completely changed our perspective on how we're looking at things. If you look at each opportunity as, is this going to be a success or failure? There's a lot of pressure on the opportunity and a lot of pressure and anxiety on yourself, right? And there's enough anxiety when you're a founder already, you don't need to add to that. But when you look at it as an experiment, you're really focused on understanding whether this experiment is going to move in a certain direction or maybe it's going to change into something else. And you're focused on collecting the right data. So you're not biased, and you're not being complacent about what you're doing, but at the same time, you're not letting the anxiety of a new opportunity scare you away from that opportunity.
Thank you, both of you, for a very nice presentation. While we see that the USP is freshness being maintained for a longer time, are you also able to beat the price hikes during these festive seasons?
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit about that. So when we actually started out, we used to be competitive with the market, and sometimes we used to even undercut the market. Because in the market, you're dealing for that 40% wastage, right? But for us, we're dealing with less than 5% wastage. So that kind of evens out in terms of economics. But what was really interesting to us is that a mentor actually told us that price is also an indicator of quality, right? If you're charging an economy seat price for a business class seat, eventually people are going to start valuing it less as well. So we actually ran a lot of pricing experiments to see what people would respond to. And we realized with the puja basket, in terms of wallet spend, it's very small, right? Like max to max, most households spend less than 200 rupees per day on it. But in terms of emotional spend, it's very important to people. Our customers look at every single petal that they get, and even if it's 5 minutes late, that's their entire day that's kind of gone off track, right? Because until you do your puja, you can't step out of the house. So price for us has always been very interesting, where it's not just about chasing that lowest denominator, but really about indicating what you're getting in terms of quality and what kind of convenience you're able to offer to the customer. So to answer your question, it varies, right? During festival times, the kind of spikes that you see in the flower market are absolutely insane. And that's not a race that we want to run with anyone. So we have set pricing with all of our partners. So one is a festive price and one is a non-festival price. And throughout the day and things like that, we don't do any price fluctuation. That stays steady for us. And I think that gives a better experience to the customer as well, because you don't want to be exhorted. Like, you know that you have to do your puja tomorrow, so you have to pay any price. Because you're not going to not do your puja because you don't have flowers. But at the same time, it's not right to kind of fleece them whenever they're the most vulnerable. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.